The scream cuts through the humid night air. Inside a small room lit by kerosene lamps, a woman grips her sister's hand, her body trembling with the ancient rhythm of labor. Then a cry, sharp, piercing, unmistakable. But before anyone can breathe, another cry follows. Two voices, two lives, twins. In most corners of the world, this would be remarkable, a statistical anomaly, something to celebrate as rare and special. But not here, not in Ilora. Here, in this hidden West African town where red dust settles on everything and yam fields stretch toward distant hills. Twins aren't rare at all. They're everywhere. Walk through any neighborhood and you'll see them. Identical faces, mirror-image smiles, lives intertwined from the very first breath. Scientists have studied it. Researchers have documented it. The world has questioned it. But Ilora simply lives it. What makes this place different from everywhere else on Earth? If this sounds unbelievable, wait until you hear what scientists discovered. But first, hit that subscribe button because this story gets wild. Ilora doesn't announce itself with grand monuments or bustling markets. It reveals itself slowly, to the laughter of children playing football in red dirt clearings, to the smell of palm oil and peppers simmering in iron pots, to the sight of women balancing baskets on their heads as they walk home from farmland painted in every shade of green. This is a town where everyone knows everyone, where grandmothers sit in doorways weaving stories as intricate as the fabrics on their laps, where the rhythm of life follows the seasons, the harvest, the rain. But there's something else, something that sets Ilora apart from the thousands of small towns scattered across West Africa. Meet Mama Aduk. She's 73 years old, her face mapped with lines that tell decades of stories. She gave birth to 3 sets of twins. Her oldest daughters? They each have twins too. Her son? Twins. When you ask her how many grandchildren she has, she laughs and starts counting on her fingers, then gives up. Too many twins to count, she says, shaking her head with pride. And she's not unique. Walk down any street in Ilora, and the pattern repeats itself. The Ogunlai family, 4 sets of twins across 2 generations. The Adeyemi compound, twin brothers who married twin sisters, and yes, you guessed it, both couples have twins. The local primary school has had to create special twin registration systems because the attendance sheets kept getting confused. Globally, twins occur in roughly 1 out of every 80 births. In Ilora, some estimates suggest nearly 1 in every 4 births produces twins. Scientists call it statistically impossible. The people of Ilora call it Tuesday. But when did this all begin? And more importantly, why? The elders remember their grandparents speaking of it. Stories passed down like precious heirlooms, polished smooth by repetition. Generations ago, when Ilora was even smaller than it is now, the women began noticing something unusual at the river where they gathered to wash clothes and share news. My cousin just had twins, one would say. So did my sister, another would reply. And my mother's friend, twins again. At first, it seemed like coincidence, a blessed season, but the pattern continued. Year after year, birth after birth, the town's population of twins grew. Neighboring villages heard whispers. Travelers passing through would stop and stare at the unusual number of matching faces. Some called it witchcraft. Others called it divine favor. Then the outsiders arrived. First came missionaries in the colonial era. Their journals filled with observations about the peculiar twin phenomenon of the inland settlement. Later, government health workers conducting regional surveys noticed the statistical anomaly. By the mid-20th century, researchers from universities began making the journey to Ilora, armed with notebooks, cameras, and scientific skepticism. They interviewed families, documented birth records, measured, calculated, analyzed. The locals watched with amused patience. They answered questions politely, served the visitors yam porridge and okra soup, and smiled knowingly when the scientists left still searching for concrete answers. Mama Kemi, now in her 80s, remembers those early research visits. They would ask my mother so many questions, she recalls, her voice soft with memory. How many children? How many twins? What did she eat? What did her mother eat? They wanted to understand with their machines and their papers. She pauses, adjusting the wrapper around her waist. But my mother would tell them, this is not something you measure. This is something you feel. This is our ancestors watching over us. Her mother had given birth to 4 sets of twins. All 8 children survived to adulthood, itself a miracle in an era of high infant mortality. All 8 went on to have children of their own. And among those grandchildren, 13 sets of twins. The deeper researchers dug, the stranger things became. If you're enjoying this mystery, drop a comment below. Have you ever heard of anything like this? And don't forget to like this video. The geneticists arrived first, convinced they'd find a clear hereditary pattern. They mapped family trees spanning 5, 6, sometimes 7 generations. They collected DNA samples. They studied the town's relative genetic isolation. And yes, they found interesting data. Certain families showed higher frequencies of dizygotic twinning, suggesting a genetic predisposition to hyperovulation. But it didn't explain everything. Then came the nutritionists, and this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. They focus on what the people of Illyria had been saying all along: the food. Specifically, the cassava and yams that form the backbone of every meal, and the okra soup that accompanies it like a faithful companion. The researchers discovered something remarkable. Certain varieties of yams grown in the Illyria region contain unusually high levels of phytoestrogens, plant compounds that can mimic estrogen in the human body. The theory? These compounds might stimulate the ovaries, increasing the likelihood of releasing multiple eggs during ovulation. It was compelling. It was scientific. It made headlines. The yam that makes twins. But then the complications emerged. Other West African communities ate similar yams. Some consumed even more yams per capita than Illyria, yet their twin rates remained average. Researchers tried replicating the diet in controlled studies elsewhere. The results were inconclusive at best. Something was missing from the equation. The people of Illyria weren't surprised. Amina is 34 years old, the mother of 2 sets of twins. Her daughters, age 7, are mirror images, Taiwo and Kahind. Her sons, age 3, finish each other's sentences. When asked about the yam theory, she settles into her chair and chooses her words carefully. Yes, we eat yams. Every day. Our mothers taught us how to prepare them, how to thank the earth before harvest, how to cook them with intention and prayer. She gestures toward the kitchen where her mother is preparing the evening meal. But the next village over, they eat yams too. They plant the same crops. They cook the same way. What they don't have is our land, our ancestors, our prayers. She tells a story that many Illyria women share. Her aunt moved to Lagos for work, married, tried for years to conceive. Nothing. She returned to Illyria for a family ceremony, stayed 3 months, and went home pregnant, with twins. Science wanted to put in a box. Amina continues. Genes, hormones, chemical compounds. But we know the truth runs deeper. This land chose us. The ancestors bless us. The twins are proof that we're connected to something bigger than what you can see under a microscope. For the people of Illyria, the food isn't just nutrition, it's communion. The yams aren't just vegetables. They're sacred. And the twins? They're not a biological accident. They're a promise that Illyria's spirit continues, generation after generation, through these double blessings. This is where it gets really interesting. Make sure you're subscribed because we're about to reveal what happened when the world tried to replicate Illyria's secret. Once a year, Illyria transforms. The dusty streets are swept clean. Colorful fabrics, indigo, crimson, gold, hang from every doorway. The air fills with the sound of drums, their rhythms echoing off compound walls and traveling across the farmland. And then they come, hundreds of them, twins of every age, dressed in matching traditional attire, walking to the town in a celebration that turns the impossible into the undeniable. The Twins Festival isn't a recent invention designed for tourists. It's been part of Illyria's identity for over a century, a day when the town gathers to honor what makes them unique, to thank the ancestors, to celebrate the bonds that define them. Picture this. Elderly twin sisters, both in their 80s, their matching gillies wrapped with precision of 70 years' practice. They walk arm in arm, moving slowly, their wrinkled hands clasped together. Behind them, twin brothers in their 50s, their baddest flowing. Then teenage twin girls, giggling and adjusting each other's jewelry. Toddler twins taking tentative steps, their parents guiding them with gentle hands. The youngest participants this year are just 3 months old. Twin boys strapped to their mother's back, their tiny heads bobbing in unison to the drum beats. The festival has become something larger than Ilora ever anticipated. Journalists arrive from Lagos, Accra, London. Documentarians film. Researchers observe. Tourists watch with phones raised, capturing something they've never seen before and may never see again. But for the people of Ilora, the cameras and outsiders fade into background noise. This day isn't performance. It's affirmation. There's a moment, late in the afternoon, when all the twins gather in the town square. The drums reach a crescendo. The crowd grows quiet. And then, together, they dance. Not choreographed, not rehearsed. Just moving, swaying, celebrating the miracle of their existence, the probability-defying reality of their lives. Adeola stands at the edge of the crowd, his newborn twin daughters sleeping against his chest, wrapped in matching fabric. His eyes glisten. I remember attending this festival as a boy. He says quietly, I'm a twin. My father is a twin. And now my daughters. His voice breaks. They will grow up knowing they belong to something bigger than themselves. They're not just my children. They're Ilora's children. They're proof that our story continues. But not everyone sees Ilora's story as purely beautiful. Blessing sits outside her home, watching her 5-year-old son play in the dirt with a stick. She's 28 years old, and when she gave birth 3 years ago, something happened that she hadn't anticipated. She had one baby. Just one. A healthy, beautiful boy. She named him Iamide, My joy has arrived. And he is her joy. But in the months following his birth, she felt the weight of unspoken questions. The sideways glances from older women at the market. The comments disguised as jokes. Just one? Maybe the next time. Eh? I felt like I'd failed, she admits, her voice barely above a whisper. Like something was wrong with me. Like I'd broken some invisible rule. She pulls her wrapper tighter around her shoulders. It took me a long time to realize that was nonsense. But the pressure was real. Ilora's blessing carries weight. When everyone expects twins, when they're seen as inevitable, what happens to the women whose bodies don't cooperate? What about families struggling to feed and clothe multiple sets of twins in a town where resources are limited? Mama Folake, a community elder, addresses this directly. We had to remember, she says firmly, that every birth is sacred. Every child is chosen. Twins are our tradition, yes, but they are not our requirement. She speaks now at naming ceremonies, reminding young mothers that Ilora's identity isn't measured in multiples. Then there's the uncomfortable commercialization. Companies have tried bottling Ilora yam extract and selling it online as a fertility supplement. Foreign investors have proposed twin-themed resorts. Reality TV producers have pitched shows about the twin town. The community has resisted most of these efforts, understanding instinctively that their story isn't a commodity to be packaged and sold. But the pressure persists, especially as young people leave for opportunities in cities, taking with them the traditions and connections that make Ilora unique. Climate change threatens the agricultural practices that have sustained the town for generations. The specific yam varieties, the soil conditions, the rainfall patterns, all of it is shifting. Some worry that the physical elements supporting the twin phenomenon, whatever they truly are, might disappear. Yet perhaps the deepest truth about Ilora has nothing to do with biology or diet or genes. Perhaps it's simpler. This is a community that took something unusual and decided to celebrate it rather than fear it. They built an identity around what made them different, and in doing so, created something precious. If this story is making you think differently about tradition and science, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, what do you believe is really happening in Ilora? The sun sets over Ilora in shades of orange and purple, painting the red earth in colors that cameras never quite capture. In the distance, Children play, many of them twins, their voices indistinguishable as they call to each other in the fading light. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Women return from the fields, their day's work complete. Somewhere, in a small room lit by lamplight, another woman goes into labor. Illyra's story isn't really about twins. Not entirely. It's about how communities create meaning from mystery, how they protect their identity in a world that wants to explain, categorize, and often exploit. It's about the tension between what we can prove and what we simply know to be true. Science will keep studying. Researchers will keep documenting. And they should. There's value in understanding, in seeking answers, in mapping the biological realities of our world. But Illyra reminds us that some truths exist beyond measurement, that the sacred and the scientific don't have to be enemies, that a town of twins is also a town of farmers, mothers, elders, children, dreamers, human beings who chose to see blessing where others saw anomaly. We all search for what makes us special, what sets us apart from the countless others walking this earth. Illyra found theirs in doubled heartbeats and mirrored faces. They found it in yams pulled from blessed soil and prayers whispered over cooking fires. They found it in refusing to let the world define them. What will you hold on to? What will you refuse to let anyone take away? Thank you for watching this journey to Illyra. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more incredible stories from around the world, and share this with someone who appreciates the unexplained. Until next time, keep seeking the stories that make us human.